It has been said in space no one can hear you scream. On planet Earth the screams surround us but go unheard. They simply add to the general cacophony of modern life. The crashing and thumping of roadwork and construction, the screeching of music indoors and out, one-sided phone conversations passing by, fights erupting, tires squealing, horns blaring, sirens wailing, babies crying, dogs barking. The screams of the homeless simply add to the ruckus and get lost in the oral haze. Everybody sees the homeless, several study them, but few truly listen to them. People, whether their intentions are noble or narcissistic, add to the din with their self-anointed missions to raise awareness. Individual social justice warriors roam the streets, snapping photographs to share on social media with links to articles detailing the suffering and abuse of rough sleepers without verifying if the stories are current or true, or if the rough sleepers actually want their pictures taken and their suffering shared. Charity think tanks gather information, the same information they have been gathering for decades, and present reports, the same reports they have been presenting for decades, that invariably blame the government and the parents, and demand more money to fight these twin evils. Politicians periodically wander their constituencies, spontaneously visiting shelters that have had days to prepare and taking impromptu selfies with charity-selected representatives of the derelict community. And they all publicly congratulate themselves for giving the homeless a voice. With all due respect to the noble, it's crap. Pure self-aggrandizing crap. They are bringing awareness to a problem everyone already knows exists. People see it every day. Nobody wants repetitive awareness, they want fresh solutions. Those solutions currently in place, many initiated by John Kirk and other philanthropists in the late 19th century, are simply not working. They are porous with corruption and abuse, and do not reflect the reality of life on the streets today. Bringing awareness to an already visible problem helps raise funds, but does not actually help the rough sleepers achieve any sustainable stability. It hasn't for almost 200 years. It simply adds to the noise. And the homeless are perfectly capable of speaking for themselves. Thank you very much. They don't need charity filters to make them more palatable, more cuddly, more marketable. They don't appreciate their stories being conveniently edited to fit predefined categories that may not necessarily reflect the truth of their circumstances. They are more than capable of telling their stories themselves, warts and all, so the general public can learn just how dreadful their existence is, and just how inadequate the current solutions are. The homeless are decidedly not cuddly, and that is why their true voices need to be heard. For the streets are vicious. You have to be tough to endure. I have seen a man tasered by police in Charing Cross when a simple disagreement turned violent and bloody. I have watched medical personnel attend to the thrashing, screaming, foaming at the mouth body of a man suffering a drug overdose in Trafalgar Square. I have tended to the cuts and bruises of a colleague beaten by a group of respectable middle-class lads out for a drunken night on the town. I have learned how to dodge a punch, and more disturbingly, how to throw one. At the age of 51 I struck another man for the first time in self-defense. Some nights I lie in bed and still feel the red dew of his blood on my fists. This is the reality. This is life on the streets. This is the struggle above and beyond mere food and shelter that the homeless face every day. They need a permanent, sustainable escape route. They need a break from the battle, they need a break from the elements, they need a break from the crap. More often than not they have no choice but to settle for a temporary reprieve. Even if only for one night. Night shelters provide a place to sleep, but not necessarily a place to sleep well. The unfamiliar surroundings, the strobe light effect of dozens of strange faces moving around you, and the underlying uncertainty of what tomorrow will bring conspire to prevent you from falling into the deep sleep your mind and body so desperately crave. You eat your meal if one is provided. You claim your cot if one is provided, you hunker down, shut your eyes, and do your best to catch 40 winks in an unfamiliar room surrounded by strangers. Just as the bliss of slumber is seconds away, you find yourself jolted awake by the cruelest of truths. You can escape the cold, you can escape the rain, you can escape the hunger, but you can never escape the snoring. Dante himself would add an eighth circle of hell to his repertoire if he experienced the symphony of snores that performs, free of charge, every night in city shelters. It starts with a single solitary snore, piercing the darkness and establishing the rhythm for other nasal instruments to follow. It is soon joined by another, higher in pitch and longer in duration, their ear-shattering duet weaving together in horribly imperfect harmony. They are joined by a third, then a fourth, a fifth. Like Ravel's Bolero, the repetitive tune continues to swell as more performers add their nocturnal acoustics to the music of the night. Then the mutterings begin, the exaggerated sighs, the growls, the increasingly colorful cursing serving as counterpoint, all rising together to an ear-splitting crescendo punctuated by the roar "shut up" and the thunk and clatter of cots being violently kicked. The orchestra is silenced for a few brief moments. Then it all starts again, a Sisyphean cycle of auditory torment. This is followed in the morning by the even more absurd theatrics of 30 or more men vying for the 3 sinks, 4 shower stalls, and 3 toilets in a room barely large enough to swing the proverbial cat as they attempt their morning ablutions. It is a surreal ballet performed by street-scarred, life-hardened, smelly, hairy men. Damp towels serving as tutus, crusty socks as slippers, weaving and bobbing, shoving and jostling, cursing and gesturing in a morbidly choreographed celebration of male hygiene. Swan Lake it ain't. But somehow it works. Homelessness makes stranger bedfellows than politics, and the strongest friendships are forged in the grimmest circumstances. You quickly grow accustomed to the faces around you. Despite your initial hesitation, you forge bonds, make acquaintances, and establish friendships with men you would not have granted a second glance before you found yourself among them. You share your stories, horrific and humorous, of life on the streets. You trade tips, advice, and practical solutions to the personal hygiene problems that invariably flare up. There's no room for the shy or the precious. You discuss hemorrhoids with the same breezy nonchalance as you do the weather, especially when they tear, a horrifying occurrence the first time it happens, but one that becomes as regular as the seasons. Shoulders to cry on are available in those moments it overwhelms you, and tissues, generally nicked from the local shop, are freely offered to wipe your nose when the tears subside. Sweaters, blankets, towels, anything that provides some semblance of warmth are traded back and forth depending on whose need is greater. 20 pence, in the context of street life, 20 pence can some days be as life-changing as £1,000,000. 20 pence is often freely handed from one friend to another to ensure he eats or, in all honesty, drinks that day. Whether you are an alcoholic, a drug addict, an ex-convict, or a middle-class twit, you need those friendships if you want to survive in the streets. Unfortunately, not all friends are chosen wisely.